we're getting ready to see the psychedelic movement happen all over again. I just hope we're a little more wise about how it happens because it's so powerful. It's so beautiful. I want everyone to be able to do it, but I want everyone to be able to do it in the right container, in the right mental space with the right people.
Welcome back to another episode of Adventures in Business Live. I am Amani. This is Mandi. How are we doing today?
Amani, I'm amazing, but I'm coming off of a really, really fun day that I had with some gal pals yesterday. Can I tell you about it?
Please do tell.
So, it's the month of birthday. I'm a Leo, so I celebrate all months like many Leos do. And we were in Maui for my actual birthday a couple weeks ago. So I wanted to do something with my girlfriends, but I didn't want to leave the house. I didn't want to put a lot of effort into it, and I didn't want to entertain. So I asked my girlfriends, would they be willing to come over to a lazy lady poolside potluck? And they said yes. So everybody bought a little snack, and the most prep I had to do was just put out a couple bottles of wine, and barely even that. People just opened the refrigerator and stuff for it. So it was 10 gal pals, and we floated and we listened to music, and my cup was just super full. Like it was, 1 to 6, 5 hours on a Sunday. We giggled and we sang songs. I learned some new music that I'd never heard of before. Rufus, everyone's talking about Rufus.
Rufus Du Sol?
Yes.
Is that what they're talking about? Yes.
I don't know this, but they were, is he a he or a they? I don't know
I think it's a group.
Okay.
I think it's a group of people.
Well, they were here in San Diego over the weekend. A lot of people went. So a couple of the girls that were over yesterday went to that concert on Saturday. So there's a lot of talk of it. And then I'm like, I am not cool enough. Like my playlist has Whitney Houston on it. Who should I be listening to? And I learned that's great poolside music, this Rufus Del Sol. Yeah. It's really good lounge music.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a group of 3 guys. Okay. So yes.
It's really cool. What about you?
Good.
What happened in your weekend?
In my weekend, pretty chill. Let me think here. The week I was back, I was coming back from a trip to Boston for work. So then last week I rested. This weekend I went to the Guild of Music Supervisors annual conference in LA. So I went there to learn about music supervision, which is when you place a song in a piece of media, whether it be a TV show, film, video game, advertisement, etc. So that was probably the highlight of my weekend. Ooh. I got to have dinner with Brian and Bernadette Churchill.
Aw, we love the Churchills.
Yes. So that was the highlight. And then I rested on Sunday. And that's what I did.
What was the takeaway? Like, were there any hot tracks from that conference or anything new? I'm sure AI was a hot topic, but what were some of the things that you learned from it?
It's ironic, but people didn't really talk about AI too much. They just made references to real people, human experiences. We got to have a keynote talk from Phineas, who is Billie Eilish's big brother.
Yes, I think I saw you.
And so he was funny. Yeah, he was funny. He was funny, and he was good. He was a good keynote, just sharing and talking, and got a great musical history knowledge. So he was good. I'd say takeaways would be, it seems real kind of nerdy, but like metadata within your songs is crucial. Also working with sync agents who are like the intermediary between an artist and a music supervisor. That's more important as a takeaway. And then like failure is really, really common for everyone involved, whether it be the artist pitching, the music supervisor working with the director, producer, and you just have to stick with it. It's the long game. It is the long game for sure, because it could take years to get a song placed. So that was some of my great learnings.
Awesome. Really interesting. You really take this music knowledge to this next level, Amani.
I'm trying to share the knowledge and learn and keep it going. 2 of my former students were volunteering there. So that I already started off on a high when I saw them there at registration.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's the best. I don't know. Like, I'm sure you understand how that feels, but just to see them applying what we learned in class and doing it, is great.
I mean, one of my former students worked for me and then a client hired her. Like
Yes.
seeing
Yes.
students soar is one of the greatest things.
The best.
It's the best. Yeah.
It's the best.
Yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of soaring, let's
Yeah.
talk about our guest this week.
We have an amazing human joining us today. She has been a marketing maven for multiple industries throughout the years. She's been on the forefront of top brands, top media companies, and now a top transformational tool, plant medicine. She's the CMO and partner at INLIBRIUM, and a gal who I used to storm the streets of San Diego with way back when. Jessica Cline, welcome to the show.
All right, welcome. Round of applause. We'll give you a round of applause there.
I love it. Thank you so much. Thanks for having me. Yeah. It's exciting to be here.
Yeah, thanks for being here.
We're excited to be here with you in our presence. I'm going to since you used to run the streets with Mandi, instead of asking an inappropriate question, I'm going to let Mandi start us off with her question because I got questions myself.
Well, I just want to give a little background. I want to go back to the Wayback Machine because when I met Jessica, we were both directors of sales for clubs in San Diego. They were actually real estate companies that ran clubs and restaurants and venues and stuff. But there was a handful of us, and we were competitors, but we were friendly competitors. And we started this little coalition of competitors where we'd like get together once a month and we'd talk about business, but we got to know each other, talk about, how to survive these crazy owners that we were working for. And we were all downtown. So I want to hang with you back then when, we started that kind of thing. I think for me, I just wanted to meet more people like me doing what I was doing because that was like a unique situation. But for you, what did you get from that competitive experience? I mean, I got a lot, but like, what did you get? Because I imagine with all the different industries that you've been leading since then, you might have applied some of the same competitive values.
Oh, absolutely. It's funny that you say that because I hadn't thought about that in a really long time, and yet it's one of those practices that I've carried throughout my entire career. So, and it really started with you and Jill.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Jill
Oh my
Darnay.
God, that's amazing.
Yeah.
So, that was great. What I got out of that experience was I think kindred spirits doing interesting things, but sort of expressed slightly in a different way with the club scene. You have to remember, I came from Washington, D.C. and went directly into the nightclub scene, which was really bizarre because I'd worked in like a think tank before and globetrotted before I went into nightclubs. But I have to tell you, when you move to San Diego at 27, and you're in your late 20s, early 30s, the nightclub scene is really, really fun.
It's a great way to meet people. Yeah.
It was a great way to meet people. But I think more deeply, you were someone that I really learned a lot from. It was one of those experiences where you're like, okay, these are definitely competitors, but I want to be friends with these people more than I want to compete with them because they're just really good at what they do and they're really, really smart. And so I always put myself in a place where I could learn as much as I could from you and Jill. I just thought it was, you were cool people, but really at the top of your game. And also we were young, and we were still learning all of these crazy things. I think about our careers from then to now feels like 15 lifetimes ago.
Yeah, it's 20 years. It's literally 20.
Isn't it? Yeah, it is 20 years. My God. Yeah, that's wild. So anyway, I think the thing that I got out of it was learn from whoever you're in the room with. Learn as much as you can from them. It doesn't matter if you're at the top of your game or you're not. There's always something to learn. And so I've sort of taken that along the way. And in my career, I feel like every turn, there's so much to learn. I mean, even now I'm like, my God, I feel like a kindergartner who's like starting school all over again. And it's exhilarating and it's fun, but there's a lot of smart people in the world. And there's a lot of great wisdom out there. And my dad used to say, even a broken clock is right twice a day. So like really listen to what people are listen to what people have to say. If you think they're a ding dong or not, it doesn't matter. They're going to say something interesting somewhere along the way.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's good stuff.
You mentioned Washington, D.C. Did you grow up there or
hmm
you just worked there? Where did you grow up in D.C.?
So I actually grew up in Indiana, and then my
Okay.
first job out of school was in Washington, D.C., which
Okay.
is a great way to start a career. In the nation's capital, there's
Yeah.
wild. I used to say you come from every single nation, but every guy is wearing khaki pants and a blue shirt. So it was really weird,
Yeah, that's where I grew
weird
up.
experience.
I grew up in the
Yeah,
DC area, so very familiar with it.
nice,
My
nice.
question to you is what gave you the courage to start a new magazine during the
Mm,
pandemic?
mm.
That's
Uh,
just mind blowing to me.
yeah, well, it is mind blowing. Uh, well, it really came from sort of necessity. I'd moved my team from San Diego to Marin, and the company that we were working for, that we were hired to do, it just wasn't working. The chemistry was off. It got weirder after COVID hit, and but I had a very deep obligation to people that had moved their lives because I asked them to do it. So I said, okay, here's what we're going to do. I can either find another job in the weirdest time of our lives,
Right,
or I can really bet on all of the wonderful people and the teammates that I'd worked with for several years, and bet on what we're doing, and that's exactly what we did. And to be honest with you, it's kind of the perfect time to start a brand new business. I
Mm.
mean, truly, I know that sounds counterintuitive, but we had the time and the space to build it exactly the way we wanted it. And I don't think in a normal circumstance, outside of the pandemic, before or after, things move so fast, and there's so much pressure. And during the pandemic, we were doing nothing. We were all just at home, and we'd all moved to Marin, and we were new to it. So we just had time to like really think about what we wanted to do and then execute against it.
yeah.
So I think necessity sort of breeds courage sometimes, and obligation breeds courage. And I'm glad I did it. I'm really, really glad we did it.
What is your response to people who say that magazines are dead, like no one's reading them anymore, they're passe?
I think people still love to read magazines. I mean, I don't know about you. I mean,
I love a
I started
magazine.
with yeah, I know. 17 magazine changed my life when I was, like 13
Yeah.
years old. It was like my favorite thing. I couldn't wait for it to come in the mail. And my love of magazines really started there. I think people really want to sit down and read information versus, we're on a screen right now. We're on a screen with our phones. We're on a screen while we work. We're on a screen when we watch TV. But when you're reading a magazine, all of the noise sort of goes away. So I think people still like them. Do I think the business model as is or traditionally is broken? Very much. Yeah, very, very much. Because I think if you, I think hyper local magazines will continue to thrive if they stay focused on building community and staying focused on telling stories of the people that are around them. Because, look, I mean, we've got some of the brightest people on the planet here in San Diego. And you know what? They're like picking out oranges at Trader Joe's, just like everybody
Mm.
else, So, it's really fascinating to see people like that highlighted, and then they're just living their normal lives, but they're brilliant people. But their stories need to be told, and they need to be told in a beautiful local way.
Got it. Yeah, Mandy, what you got?
I want to switch gears and talk about your plant medicine adventure. I hate the word journey. I always try and swap it out with the word adventure. So we'll get to INLIBRIUM in a minute, but I feel like INLIBRIUM for you started when you took this plant medicine adventure. So can you just share a little bit about what that was? And I'll probably have a couple
Sure.
follow-ups too.
Sure, I'll do the condensed version, because honestly, it's like one of those stories that could take 6 years to tell, and really should. It's a beautiful thing. 2017, 2018, I was really feeling burnout. I mean, I was at Modern Luxury. I was running two markets at the time, and I was tired, and like I felt like my cells were tired, and I did this retreat called the Hoffman
Mm.
Institute. I don't know if you've ever
Yeah.
heard of it,
Yep.
but it was really game changing for me, and it really gave me the language to understand that there's a lot there are pieces to us. We always kind of know that, but if you have the language to identify your emotions and your spirit and your intellect and your body, like how do you bring all of those things together and in alignment, because very often people just they're like, okay, well, intellectually I'm stimulated, I'm great, but emotionally I'm kind of like, my inner child is still screaming for something that it needs,
Mm.
or my body isn't projecting what it needs to, and very often your body takes the brunt of all of that,
Mm-hmm.
and you have to stop and really understand that it's you're the whole person, but there are these parts that make it really easy to understand if you break it down. So I went to Hoffman in 2018, which was great because it was like right before the pandemic. I kind of needed all of
Yeah.
that. I really needed it, and I was burnout. Um, and then about 3 years ago, started a weight loss journey. So I've lost like 100 pounds. I mean, which is
Good
a
for
lot of
you.
weight,
That's
but
awesome.
thank you. Yeah. But my body took the brunt of
Mm.
me pushing so hard and for so long that I wasn't even in tune to what like I needed.
Mm-hmm.
So Hoffman kicked off the journey of finding INLIBRIUM all those years ago, and then going through the pandemic. Then my dad died.
Mm.
He lived a great life, and it wasn't like a tragic thing. I mean, it's always tragic and impactful when you lose a parent, but it was, you know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm sorry
I'm
for
not
your
downplaying his
loss.
death.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, thank you. But it was, I had a spiritual moment right after he died, and I was like, oh wow, there's something way more to this. So I had the language. I was going through a lot of things, um, and then I fell in love.
Mm.
So that was kind of a huge thing, and I'm an older person who has never been married and doesn't have kids. And I don't regret any of that. It's all perfect. Exactly. It's unfolding and has unfolded exactly the way it should be. Um, but finding that anchor in relationship, and sort of uh, a tether. I always kind of felt like I was in space untethered,
Mm.
Mm.
and, finding a really beautiful relationship helps with that. But more importantly, finding the relationship with yourself. So there were a lot of changes with buying, like starting the magazine, selling the magazine, losing weight, falling in love, moving back to San Diego. I mean, there was just, it's a lot to
Yeah.
kind of unfold. But what I realized is that I needed to slow down and listen, like really deeply listen. And to be honest, I've never been really a drug person, I mean, here and there, I guess, fun recreational things. But when I did plant medicine, um, it was a very spiritual experience. It wasn't like we did it in someone's basement, over pizza on a Thursday.
Mm.
Like it was really not that. It was exactly opposite of that. It was very intentional. It was a beautiful ceremony, and it was one-on-one, which in Librium's philosophy is very important. Um, and I had the deepest, most beautiful experience
Mm.
I've ever had. Um, and I went into it feeling incredibly lonely, like,
Mm.
not the kind of lonely where you're like, oh, I need to schedule lunch with a friend and I'll feel better. Like the deep ache that you've had since you were kind of a
Mm.
child, that kind of loneliness. And what I realized, and I was always like kind of depressed about feeling that way and a little off. And once I did plant medicine, and I get emotional every time I talk about it, you're not alone at all, ever,
Mm.
because you have yourself and you have all of these pieces of you. And during that ceremony, I was really able to see that so very clearly and beautifully. So it changed everything. It changed. I didn't want to. I didn't want to fake anymore. I
Yeah.
didn't want to fake perform anymore. I didn't want to like. Um, I wanted to be in alignment with who I really truly am. And, there were glimpses of her all through my life, but to really be conscious of that. And plant medicine changed my life. And and then when INLIBRIUM, needed a CMO and a partner to do the US launch, they said, and Hardy actually wrote the most incredible article about it. He said, we got about 250 responses. We interviewed dozens. She was the only one who didn't ask about money because I didn't care about that part of it. I cared about the purpose and the alignment. And that's exactly what INLIBRIUM is all about, is really helping people come into their own, come into themselves, and be the best possible person they can be. Because there's a lot of leaders out there who are not in alignment. They're not spiritually aligned with themselves. And that is dangerous. When you're at the top of your game and you've got a lot of people reporting into you and you're building your company, all of that stuff matters, to realize that, there's more to it than just grinding. In fact, I kind of cringe every time I hear the word grind now, because I'm like, I never want to do that again,
Same.
in my life.
Yeah, or expecting other people to grind too. Yeah. When you say plant
Yeah.
medicine, can you define that for people who might wonder what that means?
Sure. I'm talking specifically about psilocybin mushrooms. There's a wisdom in the plants that honestly, I couldn't have. The information is all within us, but I couldn't access it until the plant medicine allowed me to do that. And that's the beauty of it. It's not like you're having an out of body experience. I mean, you kind of are, but you're literally, it's all within you. I mean, you're an entire universe inside yourself. And there's a lot to explore, and there's a lot to understand how connected we all are. And it's a really beautiful thing. And I don't want to sound too woo-woo, because I'm not really a woo-woo person. I'm not that. I just know that when people know themselves so deeply, it's really game changing. They become a different partner, not different, better. They become a different, better sibling, or, friend or leader. Like, when you really know who you are and how, emotions work, and how people work, it changes the universe. And so that's kind of, it's a very lofty goal, but honestly, if everyone understood themselves this way, I think we'd live in a very different world.
Guess what? I am doing something fun, and it's backed by popular demand. You had asked me if I could help you with mindset and how to master your year. Well, I'm doing it. I am doing a free call for 60 minutes on September 15th at 9:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Mindset, how to master the end of your year, how to better manage your mornings, better manage your time, get the business that you've been missing out on. If there is somewhere that you are stuck and you can't quite move past it, this call is for you. It's going to be interactive, it's going to be fun, but I'm going to share with you the best hacks, the best trends, and the best tips that have helped me get to where I have wanted to be for a really long time. And it would be an honor for me to share it with you. So head over to mandigraziano.com, click on Keep Up with Mandi, and drop your email address in there. And as soon as you do that, you will be alerted as to how to sign up for our September 15 Master the End of Your Year Mindset session. I can't wait to see you there.
So my question would be, what are some of the most common misconceptions about plant-based medicine that you have now learned that aren't true?
I think that people think of plant medicine as a bunch of hippies. It's just not the case. There's a real sophistication to what it does and what it and how it unfolds. So I think it being an illegal substance is something that people have a hard time getting their head around, and that I understand. But it's also changing so fast. So Trump just a couple months ago signed an executive order for the VA to advance their studies on psychedelics, which is huge. Um, Eli Lilly just bought a company for $2.8 billion in the psychedelic field. So when legislation is starting to shift and big pharma is getting, which is a whole different topic, big pharma is sort of getting involved, we're getting ready to see the psychedelic movement happen all over again. I just hope we're a little more wise about how it happens because it's so powerful. It's so beautiful. I want everyone to be able to do it, but I want everyone to be able to do it in the right container, in the right mental space with the right people. Because, psychedelics are great, but it's kind of the doorway to how do you integrate those insights? So, like, for example, a lot of there are retreats going on everywhere. And frankly, I'm excited to do some of them. But the real hard work happens when you integrate those insights into your everyday life. That's the important part.
So, welcome back, Mandy. We were talking about the misconceptions about plant-based medicine. Do you think, because you mentioned that they're still currently illegal, is that correct? Or
They are in there's a handful of states that you can do it, but you can't do it recreationally. So I think it's one of those situations where it's not decriminalized. It's just not, kind of like where marijuana was early on,
yeah,
where
yeah.
I think that's where it is. The difference is psychedelics are considered class one, which is really hardcore. So we've got to be very
Oh,
careful how you maneuver
okay.
through it. Yeah.
Okay. So how does that affect how you market your company and your brand to the public when there's still a little bit of like gray area, a lot of gray area, so to speak?
Well, we actually do all of our retreats in Jamaica, so it's perfectly
Oh,
legal there.
okay.
So that's the difference, and we're actually building a center in Jamaica as well. So we obviously want to be very safe and we want to be very legal about it. So I'll give you an example. We have a psychiatrist and a psychologist that attend every ceremony who specialize in psychedelics. So it's a very safe thing to do. My partner is fairly conservative and a lawyer, and he'd never done any sort of drug before. And when we went, he felt perfectly safe doing it because there's a doctor involved, and if something should go haywire. There's a professional in the room. So that's the difference. So the ceremony and the retreat weeks are very vital, but it's the integration of the learning. So you work with we work with a functional medicine specialist and a psychologist every week, and we have our DNA was completely mapped out, which, by the way, mind blowing.
Hmm.
When you kind of know all these things about your body, but then when you see it there, right there in black and white, you're like, oh my God, it's a whole different experience to see where your genetic markers are landing. So it's a program that again really addresses the whole person, not just one aspect of what you're doing. It's a really beautiful thing. So I forgot what the question was, but yeah.
Well, I want to,
Yeah,
can you
yeah.
walk us through a retreat? We're in the retreat space, the meeting space, all of that. Like
Hmm.
you had
Hmm.
said, it's a one-on-one experience, but then it also
Hmm.
sounds like there's some group integration. Can you just like walk us through what does it look and feel like on one of these retreats?
Sure. So for INLIBRIUM, it's kind of the sort of, it's sort of the Four Seasons way of doing this. It's a pretty beautiful experience. So you go and you're literally the only person. So you are your partner. It's really good if you have a partner, it's good to do it with them. Not the ceremony, but it's good to go through the process together because you're learning so much about yourself. You want to be on a track that is, parallel versus one person's going this way and another person's going somewhere else. So we have it's a beautiful place where we go, and you're there for a week. And you have your psychiatrist, your psychologist. a massage therapist, the two founders, and a functional medicine expert, as well as an executive coach that helps you with your career and things like that. So you're with those people for an entire week, and it's literally one-on-one. And you're eating with them, and you're doing great exercise together, and you're meditating together, and so and then there's a ceremony. There's 3 of them that happen throughout the week, and that part is pretty amazing. It lasts about 6-7 hours, and you're really just working on yourself, and you're really focused on what you're doing. And I like to say, my partner laughed for 6 hours, and I felt like I saw the universe. So everybody's a little different on how they respond, which is why it's so important to do it one-on-one. And so the retreat side of it feels, it's not really a group activity. It's a one-on-one activity for INLIBRIUM specifically. And then throughout the 6 months, you do that 2 more times. So it's 3 one-week sessions, or retreats, we should say. And then in between, you're doing a lot of the work to integrate the findings, and not just what your experience was, but how does it incorporate into your full life? That part's important.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting.
Hi, friends. Guess what? Did you know that when you click subscribe, you just hit it? It's such a fast little tip. Tap, tap, tap. You hit subscribe for our podcast, either on YouTube or on the platform that you're listening on. It is free. It doesn't cost you anything. I know a lot of times when we think subscribe, it costs something, but it doesn't. And it helps us so much, because when you subscribe, we show up in more people's feeds. And when we show up in more people's feeds, we get to help more people have greater and better adventures in business. So if you can hit subscribe on the platform that you're watching or on YouTube, that will help us, but it also helps so many more people. The other fun thing is that when you hit subscribe, then our next episode automatically shows up in your feed, and you don't have to search for us anymore. So can you do us a solid? Hit subscribe and join our Adventures in Business movement. Thank you.
Well, we've come to the time point in the show where it's time for us to flip the script. So you can ask Mandi and myself any question you like. Nothing is off limits. So what is your question, and who do you want to ask it to first?
Sure. Okay, so I think what I'd love, you guys have been interviewing a ton of people. So my question to you is, who's really performing and who's really thriving? There's a real difference in leaders who are very successful. There's a performance base, but then who are really thriving? How does that? What are you seeing with people now?
I think I can go first, Mandi.
Okay.
I would say the people that we've interviewed who are really thriving are kind of very focused, and they understand the space they're working or living in. They don't get distracted, and they're just kind of consistent. They don't let failure get to them, and they just keep at it. I think consistency, I kind of have a love-hate word with the word alignment. They're very well aligned with what they're doing, and they're kind of in step, and they just are consistent, and they just continue to take action. That's the one thing. I think I asked Manny this before, but when we don't really talk, most people we talk to take action, but there's some people who talk about taking action, which I would put into the performing category. And then the other people who just take action and do it. And those are the ones that are thriving, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree with that. I will say curiosity is the biggest thing that sticks out for me. The people that are non-performative, the true leaders, they're the ones in the middle of the interview that are like, wait, what about this? Like they, even if you say something that like everybody else in the world might know, if they don't know it, they're not afraid to ask. Yeah. I think so many people are afraid of asking the dumb question. It's like, we've interviewed over 400 leaders, and I would say curiosity and not being afraid to be curious and interested is something that I've noticed. But you can see though in an interview when it's a true leader, because the performative leader, it's kind of a shallow peel. You're like, oh, I've really gotten everything I need to know in like 20 minutes. Where that real leader, you're like, whoa, what about, and it's taking all these twists and turns and curves. And then you're like, I wish this interview would never end. That's the real leader. And most of that is curiosity, because they're experimenting with things, and they're shouting out their mistakes, and they're really honest and really accountable. And like you said, they want to get to know themselves, and through that they're curious about themselves, but they're also curious about their environment and how they can be better too.
Yeah.
So
yeah, no, that's great. I love that consistency and curiosity. Makes a great leader. That's a very powerful message.
little alliteration there for you. Little alliteration. Yeah.
Right.
Yes. Mandi, what else do you have for us before I ask my final question?
Well, you've been involved with so many different industries, between real estate and entertainment and publishing and media and politics and now this, right? What is a common thread between all of them that have stayed with you as you're marketing all these brands?
I think marketing skills, and I know right now recruiters get really caught up in marketers who have specific skills in a specific industry. And I think any good marketer, Mandi, and you touched on this, they have the discipline and the framework to create what they need to create, but there has to be a real curiosity about what they're doing, and what the industry is. So I would say I think marketers are some of the smartest people I've ever met. They're the one person who has to work across the entire organization. Not everybody has to do that or gets to do that, but the marketer really needs to understand that. And I think if I could give advice to anyone at this point is look outside of your industry to find a smart marketer, because they're going to have an entirely different point of view, but their discipline and the framework of marketing is the same everywhere. The messaging changes based on the industry, and how you might do it changes on the industry, but the discipline doesn't change.
Yeah, that's great advice, especially right now where there are a lot of open jobs. There's a lot of people looking for jobs that say there aren't any open jobs, but I think people are being a little more discerning about who they hire in some of these important executive roles too. And looking outside the industry, I think is a smooth move.
I just worked in a lot of different industries, and I was excited and curious about all of them. And I can say, I feel really pretty successful at doing that. But again, the framework is the same. It's just that you might have a very different point of view, and your organization actually needs that outside of the industry you're in. You really should take a look at different points of view and different opinions, and curious, fun people. Really, at the end of the day.
Yeah. Curious, fun people are the best. I have one more thing. You said a quote recently that I thought was really interesting. It's a little bit of a longer one, but I want to build on this. Is you said you can't market transformation the way you can market a product. Products have features. Transformation has no guarantee. Products have timelines. Transformation has no deadline. So I really appreciate this, because I think sometimes when people are running their businesses, so many people are in the service industry, and service does transform people, but people want to sell their product like a transaction, right? So what can people do, whether it's in your industry or other industries, like where they move from performing, that they can move to resonating and move to recognizing? Like, how can people lift up in a different way?
I think putting a human emotion on everything is the key to that. So, marketing is really the intersection of creativity and business, right? That's what marketing is. But when it comes down to it, the good ones know how to reach a specific emotion. And so like marketing for the sake of marketing and talking about your product or your service and what it does functionally I think is a big mistake, because you can explain that part later, but how do people feel, and how do they feel immediately? And what's the feeling you want out of the experience or the product? That's what should be marketed, in my opinion. It's about connecting to one-on-one. If you're thinking about connecting to the masses, you might be missing the boat. Think about connecting to the person, that a real human being with eyebrows and a nose and lips.
Yeah. Flesh. Yeah.
Right.
Voice inclination. Yeah. All of it.
Yeah. I think that's the most important part. The humanness of it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, my final question for you would be, if we were to go back and talk to Jessica right as she's turning 21 and give her advice based on everything you've learned in life so far with all your experiences, what advice would you give your younger self?
I would say life is weird, like really weird, and every opportunity sort of builds on the next, and you're gonna fail a lot, but failure is the most beautiful possible thing that could happen to you. You may, come to think, oh, I probably should have handled that differently, and the answer will be yes, you probably should have handled it differently, but it led you to a specific lesson, and life is a big building block. And if you're not curious about one thing or another, don't do it. But realize that failure is going to be a part of it, and that's a wonderful, beautiful thing. And everything builds on the next. So if you're curious about, a random thing, go and explore it, because it will mean something to you in the long run.
Beautiful. Mandy, take us home.
Two finals. So what is something about an INLIBRIUM that we should know that we might not think of, that might not be obvious?
I think that psychedelics are a beautiful door to a very large house. And the house needs to be explored and cleaned out, and rearrange the furniture and all of that fun stuff. But you got to go through the door, and that is, I think, psychedelics in a nutshell. It's not just for fun; it's for really beautiful life transformation.
Okay, I love that. Okay, and the next question is your partners are coming to San Diego and they want to meet with specific people. So tell us who they want to meet with while they're here, and when they're going to be here, and how can we support that endeavor?
Sure. Yeah. Thank you. So I appreciate that. They are coming. I'm picking them up tomorrow, which is exciting.
Okay. Yeah. Awesome.
So they'll be here for 2.5 weeks. We've got about 26 meetings on the books already, which is crazy and exciting. And it really runs the gamut, but we're working, with psychologists who have a practice, and at some point, come to their therapy sort of comes to a threshold where they need more. And there's a lot of therapists who really do believe in psychedelic therapy done in the right way, in the safe, medical, beautiful, spiritual way. So we're looking for psychologists that can do that. Funny enough, we're also working with a lot of M&A attorneys, because I'll tell you, those are the people who are interacting with founders who are selling their company, and they're going to be in huge transition. Their entire lives have been sort of focused in that way. So we're working with psychologists and M&A attorneys and real thought leaders. And honestly, there are some of my friends who are just curious about it, and I'm having them over for dinner. Like it's one of those things that if you're curious about real transformation and real work, reach out. We would love to meet with you. I never get tired of talking about this, because it's such a beautiful thing. And I know how I felt before, and I know how I feel now. And so I'm not just the marketer. I've actually been through it. And I think that carries some good amount of weight.
Yeah, that matters. Having done it really matters, and you can speak to it. How can people find you? What's the website? What's the way to connect with you?
Sure. So it's INLIBRIUM.com, INLIBRIUM.com. My email is jessica.cline, CLINE, at INLIBRIUM.com. So feel free to reach out and we'll get something on the books.
Awesome. We'll pop that
Awesome.
all in the show notes too. But thank
Yeah.
you, Jessica. Thank you so much for being here. I'm so stoked for your new adventure. This is really, really life changing to hear about. And it's a hot topic. And it's a topic that people, they either love it, they either hate it, or they ignore it. And so I just think the more we normalize talking about it, people can make decisions for themselves. But I think we need to be talking about it more so people have more data
absolutely.
points.
Yeah. I mean, we grew up on, the commercials of, a cracked egg in a frying pan and this is your brain on drugs. Like it can be that for sure. But the stigma is really being removed because people are realizing how transformational it can be in the right circumstance.
Yeah. Awesome.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much for sharing your expertise and opening up our minds and eyes to what's out there. So excited to learn more. And with that, we will say thank you, give you a round of applause, put you back in the green room momentarily. So once again, thanks for joining us, Jessica Cline.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for being here.
Okay, Mandi, all done with another episode.
Yes.
We want to thank everyone for watching and listening on the platform that they are watching or listening on. Don't forget to leave us a review, subscribe to us on YouTube, share with a friend. And with that, we will see you next time for our next episode of Adventures in Business Live.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.